Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Politics of the Empire, presented by theempiremedia.com. I'm your host, Dorf, joined each and every episode by Adam Hernandez and Josh Houselander. How is everybody doing tonight, guys?
Awesome.
All right.
Good. Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, good. We're going to try and stay away from, the relevant politics of the day here, but we're going to discuss privacy rights in the 21st century. In the era that the Constitution was written and formed, the biggest threat to an individual's right to privacy was a overreaching government, an overbearing government. While that threat has not subsided, there is yet another enemy to privacy. That is the mega corporation, let's call it, or a corporation, a private corporation. I'm going to argue that it's almost an equal threat and therefore should be protected in similar privacy rights should be protected in similar fashion that they are between the interaction between governments and citizens, as they should be protected in the same way in relationships between citizens and businesses. Now, I know here none of us are naive enough on this podcast here to realize that yes, we have the Fourth Amendment in principle, but that in reality it is trampled on all the damn time by a overbearing government. But at least in the conceptual realm, should we consider codifying in law, whether through just amendment to the U.S. Code or the Constitution itself, to treat interactions between businesses and consumers where there's regular violations of their people's privacy, or are people ignorant enough of their actions, and do they deserve their fate?
Can I read it, Dorf? While we're getting started, the Fourth Amendment.
Yes, go ahead, sure.
Okay. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized.
Okay. Also, guys, hey, Adam, I've got a huge echo. I don't know what you just changed, but I can. Yeah, I'm getting an echo. Anyway, there it went away. Should we essentially, those exact words modify them slightly a bit to pertain to business to consumer interactions? Because at the same time, Josh, yes, there are terms and conditions, but can lay people understand exactly what they're agreeing to? And at the same time, a lack of consent in any other form of agreement isn't acceptable, where businesses or websites or anything like that can just copy anything they want, data mine you even after you leave with the use of tracking cookies. Is that arrangement acceptable in today's day and age? Because I would argue, I'm not necessarily worried about what my government can find out about me without a warrant. I'm worried what the hell, Google has a likely larger influence over my everyday life. I'm worried what just their ubiquitous products and data mining capabilities can find out about me and potentially uses not only political blackmail, but personal blackmail. Not to say that I'm running for office or something like that. That's not an announcement I'm making today, but we're now in an era. You see everybody who's young and in government now, the younger generation, whether it was Katie Hill or Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or I think her name is, I forget the first name, Stefaniak, Republican representative from New York, all under age of 40. We're very likely in a day and age where private corporations have these people's nude pictures and can use those as political blackmail. Mm-hmm. and we're okay with, that's just the new reality of the situation. And not to mention any other private conversation that they've thought they've ever had with another person, whether it was edgy and a joke or entirely serious. And those records now exist and are in the hands of a private corporation that could potentially wield them as a weapon when their status quo, the company's status quo, is ever challenged. And I find that incredibly scary and concerning. Your thoughts, everybody?
I'm with you, Dorf. I mean, the question here, if you've read the old books, is basically this is 1984 versus Brave New World. Which one's worse? And personally, I don't have an answer to the question. My answer is both. They're both. I mean, am I more worried about corporations than government? I don't know. I'm kind of a freak. I'm probably more worried about government, but it doesn't matter. They're both. I mean, if you are I'm a guy. Yes, I'm an originalist. I'm a federalist. Want to be a constitutional patriot, if you will. And nothing in that amendment I just read, nothing in the Fourth Amendment says the government can't do these things. It says that you have these rights. You absolutely, positively have these rights. You can't be searched. Your things cannot be seized. Information is yours too. So seizing information is still seizing a thing. Information is still a thing. Just because you can't touch it.
Especially now in a digital age where more and more of our economy is not physical things,
right.
Whether it's actually services or entirely digital property.
Right. When they were stealing music off Napster, were they really stealing records or tapes or CDs?
No, that was digital. Intellectual property.
Yeah, that was digital. It was digital things they were taking. That is still stealing. It's just as much stealing to steal that as it is to steal a car or steal somebody's wallet. So to me, these are both huge issues. The Constitution is supposed to exist. I know that this isn't simply a constitutional argument, that this is discussing the topic at large, but constitutionally, the Constitution doesn't give us our rights. The Constitution is supposed to protect those rights. That's the idea behind it. It's not supposed to provide them. The Constitution didn't just pull them out of thin air. We have the rights. The Constitution protects it. That means they're supposed to protect it against agents of government, and it means they're supposed to protect us against somebody else who might hurt us. That's what that means.
Well, here's another angle, guys. I would want, I know you two for sure wouldn't, I don't think, object with the statement you have outside of the normal mainstream political views.
Mm-hmm. Probably.
The information in the hands of Facebook and Google and Twitter, et cetera, just the stuff that they have that you've talked about outside of the public view, not something that's been indexed by a search engine and that anybody can find. There is immense potential, I'm sure, for damage in your private life if that stuff were all of a sudden public.
Yeah.
It could ruin relationships. It could threaten your employment. It could, irreparably harm your life forever if that all of a sudden was plastered on a proverbial billboard.
Yeah,
but that sort of power in the hands of a private company who, is governed by profit motive, if nothing else, at least, that shouldn't be a power that they should be able to wield for exactly the reasons Josh stated. That is something that should be, if you read the text there and interpret it as not only that is a protection of interaction between, government to citizen, but citizen to other citizen or citizen to business or, et cetera, et cetera. If you interpret it that as such, this behavior as we have it now is unconstitutional, but what is the apparatus to go about fixing that? If we all agreed that behavior is unconstitutional, which Adam, I know you haven't spoken much here. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah.
Okay. If that's the case, what is our remedy here? How do we fix this? Do we need a constitutional amendment? Do we need to modernize the U.S. code? Do we need to break up the big companies. What do we need to do here to get essentially that relationship between business and citizen back where it should be?
Dorf, if they came out tomorrow, if a senator or a congressman came out tomorrow and said, I am putting forth a constitutional amendment to, protect privacy rights. I am passing a bill to protect privacy rights. I am, even if it was just a bill or, constitutional amendment, even better. That'd be great. I would support, said legislation. I would absolutely support that. But at the same time, we already have a constitutional amendment that says all that. I just read it. So if we're not going to follow that one, what makes anyone think we're going to follow the new one?
I just hate the idea of let's create another bureaucracy meant to enforce this.
I'm
really, really, really hate that idea, but I'm lost otherwise. I mean, you're never going to get enough of the citizenry to voluntarily withdraw to influence business behavior enough to change this. It's not going to happen.
Well, the first step that we could take, what would very much help, is first of all a government that sticks up for the people, actually defends rights. But secondly, you mention a bureaucracy or a cabinet position that would protect these. No, the first step would be get rid of some of the bureaucracy and cabinet positions that go directly against this. I understand that there's espionage to be done and that there's things, but I mean, we basically have a CIA, an FBI, an NSA, Secret Service, DOD, and when we were attacked at 9/11, our government's response was, we need another one of those. Not even the idea. I would have been against this too, by the way, but not even the idea that we need to pump more money into FBI and CIA. No, we need a whole nother one of those things.
In addition to pumping more money in the FBI.
So we need Homeland Security, and Homeland Security basically has done nothing but be an anti-Fourth Amendment cabinet position, and that's it. And you can say they've done good things. Great, maybe they have. I don't know. Maybe they have. Maybe they haven't. But regardless, I mean, it's done nothing but remove rights. We brought forth the Patriot Act. Oh my God, people want to kill us. Let's take some people's rights away. I mean, any excuse to take people's rights away. And then on the corporate level, it's we have a right. We have rights to privacy, and all of us citizens say, oh yeah, can we pick up my phone? Can I track your location? Yeah, sure. That'll make this Google search, half a second faster if I, allow some corporation to track me. Now, I kind of disagree, Dorf, and you didn't make this as like a blanket statement, but I kind of disagree with the comment you made about, are people just not smart enough to do this, or people, do they deserve their fate, all that stuff. I've always rejected that idea because in a free country or in a nation where people's rights are supposed to be protected, you don't have to understand your rights. It's not your job. The Constitution and rights that were given by our government aren't just for smart people. Dumb people have a right to privacy too. I mean, really, you do. Dumb people have the same right to privacy as the smartest guy you know. So you're too dumb to know that Google is tracking you, that Facebook's tracking you, that Twitter's tracking you.
I'm not even
then
worried
that's
about
where the government needs to step in and help those people.
I'm not even worried about the people that are too dumb to know. I'm worried about the ones that know and don't care. They're okay with it because they feel that the utility of the service and that invasion of privacy, the utility they get out of that is worth it, and they just don't care.
Yeah,
and here's another scary idea. This other thing too, it's the idea that essentially consent and data file is unrevocable. I mean, you can't. Right. I can't go to Google. I can't write them a letter and say, anything or any note or any data point or any node you have on me, delete it. I don't want to have a business relationship with you anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, the concept of a shadow profile. Yeah. There is a shadow advertising profile that Facebook has developed for you, even if you have never stepped on their site, because other people in your friends network have shared their phone books from their cell phones with Facebook.
Not only that, Dorf,
and they track where that phone number, mm-hmm. who you voluntarily given to even third parties here.
Yeah.
And guess what? They now have, and they figured out that, Bob Smith is listed at this phone number by 2 different people, so this must be Bob Smith. And they start tracing and tracking that behavior across the rest of the internet, wherever else they have their tentacles.
Mm-hmm. Dorf,
and you didn't consent to give that information to Facebook, yet they still have it.
Dorf,
and you can't make them get rid of it.
It's when with the scary thing too about Facebook is like, you could be searching for something, like you could be looking up, a new dishwasher, mm-hmm. and then all of a sudden you log on to Facebook, and all of a sudden there are these ads for new dishwashers, right. Coming up on your feed, and
what's even scarier,
it's not just that. It's like sometimes you're like, wait, did I actually even type in like new dishwashers into my computer, or
has it been listening?
Has it been listening to something? Yeah. Is it somehow? I mean, this is totally off the wall right now.
It's not off the wall, Adam.
Well, no, I'm like saying, I'm just thinking about it. I'm just thinking about it myself. I'm not actually talking to somebody about it or typing it into a computer. I'm just thinking about it.
Sure, Adam,
I know that portion is absurd, but
you're so right though, Adam. And the thing is that people talk about how it's creepy, or I love when people say, "Oh, that's so weird." It's like, it's not weird. It's designed. It's actually the opposite of weird. It's there, and
it's intentional.
Yeah, and then you wonder, okay, I didn't even say dishwasher, but did I type something or did I say something about water on my floor? And then they ran an algorithm that said 83% of people who have a problem with water on their floor need a new dishwasher? I mean, is that where they're getting that from? Yeah. And same with what you were saying, Dorf, is that, it's crazy. You can be a person who you think lives off the grid. You're actually really concerned about this. You really value your own privacy rights, but they ran something through, and 81% of the people in your phone contacts, like Bud Light. So now you're getting, advertisements for Bud Light or Mountain Dew or it's crazy.
What's even scarier, this isn't even a new concept in the digital era, guys. Here's another thing that people forget. Walmart was so good at predicting consumer behavior based on purchase patterns, just tracking you by your credit card or debit card number that you come into the store, and just essentially developing a file associated with that credit card number. And then they could eventually figure out where your address was. Walmart was a better predictor of whether or not you were pregnant than a pregnancy test. They knew you were pregnant before you did, based on your purchase behavior.
Jeez.
And that was in the 90s.
Yeah. Well, and the worst part about it, too, is when you have government agencies and corporations who, especially, and this is up to your point, Dorf, where it could be worse with corporations, is their goal is not your protection. Their goal is not your well-being. Their goal is making money.
It's to milk every cent out of you.
Right. And that's okay, by the way. This isn't me criticizing the capitalistic nature of business at this point. That's not what I'm criticizing. We could do that, but that's a different show. I'm just saying that we're not. That's not why I'm saying it's wrong. Okay, they're a business, they're making money, but they don't value you at all. So they do not have your well-being in mind. I would say the same thing about the government, but there are statists out there who would say that, oh no, the government has your best interest in mind, so you have to follow. But nobody thinks that a corporation has your best interest in mind.
That's the thing, Josh. When we opened up the show tonight, Dorf was asking, it's a binary question. Mm-hmm. What's worse, the government or corporations?
I'm perfectly okay with the answer being both.
No, yeah, and that's fine. I didn't think you were not accepting that answer. But I'm with you, Josh. For me, it's both too, and it's both from the sense that they're so synonymous with each other now.
Right.
I mean, the government is big corporations, and big corporations is the government. And to stretch this out, when it comes to a solution to this, to the question in hand here is, what do you do aside from, outright revolution, political upheaval is, and again, I was joking around with you guys with the arguments I was getting into on social media yesterday, but it works hand in hand with this, because one of the big solutions is to get corporate politicians out of office. Mm-hmm. It's whether you're a Republican or whether you're a Democrat, because the corporate mentality certainly transcends, the slightly left and then the slightly right. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They're going to have their hand in the pockets of a Nancy Pelosi or a Donald Trump or a Mitt Romney. Mm-hmm. Or a Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's just how it is.
Or down to your local Congressman Bob Smitherman.
Exactly, Dorf.
Right.
If and this goes back to the political duopoly show that we did on that's Deep Issues.
It was Deep Issues, yeah.
Yeah, it goes back to that. And I know people are sitting here saying, vote blue no matter who. I don't care. As long as there's an R or a D next to their name, we got to get them in office because this election is too important or that election's too important. Well, this is what you're maintaining. You're maintaining a government/corporate control that isn't going to give a shit about your privacy rights when it comes to data mining and whatnot. I mean, do you really, really think that a Nancy Pelosi or a Mitch McConnell is going to give two shits whether Google is data mining your information or not? Why? Because a lot of these politicians are going to be able to tap into Google, tap into Facebook. Hell, we already seen it before. And use that information to help them get more power. The only way around this is long-term solution to this or whatever is to not vote for corporate politicians. And if you want to look at it this cycle right now, if you want to look at it from the Dem perspective, yeah, you can't vote for a Pete Buttigieg. Is Pete Buttigieg going to care about your privacy rights? Fuck no. Fuck no. Pete Buttigieg is in the pockets of Silicon Valley right now. I just saw a picture today of Pete Buttigieg on Twitter of him, in the front seat with Mark Zuckerberg just yakking it up, probably. I mean, do you think that Pete Buttigieg is going to not do his friend Mark Zuckerberg a solid and get
and help get elected?
Yeah, and help him get elected and help him, look the other way when Facebook continues to try to shit all over privacy rights?
Pete Buttigieg is a great example, Adam, because this is a guy, much like Dorf was saying, that this guy hasn't even moved past small city mayor.
No, he's not. I mean, in 20 years ago, it would be unthinkable to believe that somebody like Pete Buttigieg and Dorf knows firsthand what South Bend is like. Dorf is in South Bend right now.
I live in South Bend.
He lives in South Bend, so he knows what that is like. What Pete Buttigieg is going from and what he's trying to go to. And it's not just Pete Buttigieg, it's any other corporate Democrat out there right now. And I'm just saying Democrat because that's the cycle going on.
Right.
Donald Trump, Mitch McConnell, they're all in on it too. Mitt Romney, who everybody's hailing as some hero right now
because half the country.
because he voted, against Donald Trump in the Senate trial, he's for it too. I mean, if you look at Joe Biden, Amy Klobuchar.
That cycle has made Mitt Romney incredibly wealthy.
Yeah, I mean, Amy Klobuchar, Joe Biden, to some extent Elizabeth Warren, all of them have corporate interests in mind. Fuck, you go on Elizabeth Warren's her website right now, her campaign website right now. She goes and touts how capitalism, untethered capitalism, is bad for everybody. Well, I know I'm not gonna get the agreement out of you two, but well, some maybe a little bit, but. I mean, is somebody like that? What is untethered capitalism? What does that even mean? I mean, it's
untethered capitalism has really never been tried.
No, it's just it's stupid, because even tethered capitalism, you're still gonna get shit on when it comes to your privacy rights. So that's the solution. That's the solution that isn't revolution and complete and total political upheaval. It's don't vote for these fucking
solution
politicians. Go ahead, Dorf.
I have another solution that works within the current, let's call it the current mainframe. You need essentially a war chest, a war fund, and you just start suing the shit out of everybody. You start setting precedent, again within the court systems, that privacy rights matter, and yes, that governs, the Fourth Amendment governs interactions between citizens and companies. It will take a sustained campaign of lawsuit after expensive lawsuit after expensive lawsuit for decades and decades. That's the only way within what I'm saying is that's the way within the current mainframe to get that done.
Who has the resources to do that, though? I mean,
the people that have that's what I was going to get to next. The people that have the resources to do that are the ones with absolutely no interest.
Exactly, because they're because they're the ones that are benefiting off of lax privacy rights. I mean, it's just, I mean, I know even if Dorf, you, Josh, and myself were to pool our money together, we still couldn't come up with a lawsuit that is going to be able to take on
anybody.
Yeah.
We wouldn't get out of the first month with the firepower we need.
No, and that's why the only solution is to get the guillotine. I mean, the vote people out of office.
Right.
Or the guillotine.
You know what the thing is?
Was that a slip up? And did you almost liberals get the bullet too?
Liberals are some of the worst. Are some of the most guilty when it comes to this. So I'll just leave it at that.
And hey, you know what? To you guys listening out there, we didn't plan this, but the deep issues topic that we're going to cover in the next hour is the Council on Foreign Relations.
Well, actually, it's 2 hours from now.
2 hours from
9 o'clock hour.
9 o'clock hour.
Next time slot is what I should have said. But that is basically ties into this exact thing. That corporations, big business, banks, and the government are the same thing. They're all tied in with each other. So the point, and then on a separate point, what I'd like to make is, when you have a right, that means that right is by the Constitution. That means it's a legal right. So if somebody is going against that right, that's supposed to be against the law. So if we have a right to privacy, and there is somebody out there infringing upon our privacy, that should be punishable. That should be punishable.
Josh, by the guillotine, right?
Sure.
I'm no law expert here, but I don't know that there is outside of civil law. I don't know that there's criminal law statutes on the books that you could potentially go and arrest Mark Zuckerberg for violating privacy rights. Or Jack Dorsey.
There isn't.
Sundar Pichai. I don't know that exists.
Fourth Amendment.
There's civil remedy. There's obviously civil remedy, and the only what I was getting at with that lawsuit thing was you're gonna have to sue them into oblivion where it hurts so much that they change their behavior and figure out a different way to make money that's not in violation of the Fourth Amendment.
And that's why one way to fix it is
war chest for that. Or here's another thing. Your government can actually sue companies on your behalf.
Absolutely, they can. Absolutely. Yeah, the government has big enough pockets.
Who has deepest pockets in the world? The U.S. government. They could do that.
Yeah.
But I think that would also involve admitting complicity in the violations of the Fourth Amendment rights. And I don't think that that is politically palatable for anybody. And nor are you going to win any political brownie points with any significant voting population that, oh, yeah, U.S. versus Google for violations of Fourth Amendment, that's going to drag out over 10 years and Google's going to settle for a fine. I don't think that will win.
I do.
A significant amount of.
I do.
Yeah, with like 5 people.
Well, I don't think that's true. I think that's
it's
something
a lot
that's,
smaller amount of people than you care to think.
I actually think it's something that Republicans and Democrats could unify on, to be honest. But
nobody's interested in unity. It's an election year.
Well, I know what I was going to say next is that the Republicans and Democrats hate issues that they unify on because then it.
Well, it's not only is it an election year, it will always be within 2 years of an election year, and no one, this is such a long-term play that no one is going to be willing to partner with the enemy for that long to get this done.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this goes back to Adam's point about voting them out.
Something that essentially allows for seizure, not necessarily seizure and takeover of operations of large companies like that, but essentially an immediate cease and desist of all violating activities, at the enforcement end of, at the end of a gun, per se. That's the only other way to do that, but I don't think that framework exists within the current law, and you're going to have to get some laws on the books to do that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I liked Adam's point saying that, we need to get rid of these corporate politicians, and we need to basically, we need to vote them out of office, get rid of them. But I'm not saying you're wrong, Dorf, but if you're right, then it's hopeless. Then what Adam said
and that's
matter.
what I am arguing. Because of the current political environment, it is hopeless. I am willing to say it is hopeless. There's too much power coalesced in 2 parties, that being big business and government, who are uninterested in changing the status quo, and there will not be a sustained, even if you want to go the violent overthrow of the government route.
If you don't have the numbers to get them in votes, you don't have the numbers to overthrow them either.
Arms. No, you don't. And
that's something that politicians always like to leave out from they love to talk about the ideals of democracy. They love to throw around the word democracy and will of the people. That's another one that politicians love to say is will of the people, democracy, the voice of the people. But they always leave out the part that was one of the major bases of democracy, where if we don't like what they're doing, we storm that building and we kill those people. That's the part that the politicians they always leave that part out.
The Tree of Liberty is watered with the blood of patriots and tyrants.
Yeah, that's the part they leave out. That when it gets that bad, this is when we're supposed to start knocking down the doors of Congress and start. Because you know what, we talk about politicians. Yeah, I'm gonna get. God, we're talking about privacy and the stuff I'm saying. I'm getting arrested tomorrow. But I mean, we're talking about. Winning over politicians and them, switching to this and getting away from being bought and sold by corporate entities. Bust down Congress and string 7 or 8 of them up. I bet the other 400 are going to start to change their mind.
Hey, you could almost argue that was essentially tried as recently as 2017. With Steve Scalise and others being shot up at the congressional baseball game practice. You could argue that was a political activist, which the guy had a background in left of center activism, targeting right of center politicians. Maybe was that a patriotic act in the end?
The news wouldn't tell us if it was.
The news would tell you it was political terrorism if they talked about it, not that it was talked about much after it happened because, anyway, I'm not going to, that's another show. That's political one man's political terrorism is the other's, Thomas Jefferson, like I said, the Tree of Liberty being watered with the bloods of patriots and tyrants, That's not an exact quote of Jefferson,
Right,
but you know
no.
what I mean.
Oh,
It's
yeah,
a
no, sure.
It's a
Yeah,
pretty
no.
straight paraphrase.
Rebels,
But
terrorists,
depends on who
rebels,
writes the book.
yeah, rebels, terrorists, patriots. Totally depends on the person talking. I mean, in a lot of sense. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't obvious, examples, because those words do all have different definitions.
I would, speaking of that, a good Hollywood example here is, were the rebels in Star Wars actually the bad guys?
Yes. No, I mean
I would
made this...
if you guys ever want to do that show on like XCast or Deep Issues, I'd love to be a part of that.
No, we've discussed that before.
Have you? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it again or do a whole show on it. Adam and I have talked for quite a while about doing a show about the politics of Star Wars, and we've never done a full show. We've kicked it around and talked about it here.
God, that should be that would end up being like a 5-part series. You know that, right?
No, it could be. I mean, shit, they made 9 movies. But
11.
Yeah, 13 if you count the Ewok spinoffs.
The Christmas special.
Yeah, that was straight to TV though. No, I mean, but that's a question, I mean, yeah, if they could be the bad guys. Yeah, they're the Empire is the government, and in Star Wars.
Well, I bet Dorf watches it and thinks that the rebels are the bad guys.
Yeah. I'm sure he does.
I forget what exact British TV show. It might even be Monty Python. It's it's a skit where 3 of the characters, I believe, are actually dressed in Nazi uniforms and stuff like that. And it's one of the guys is like has the realization, are we the baddies?
Yeah, I remember saying that. Yeah.
I forget. Yeah. I don't know exactly what show that is, but I've seen the clip before. Are we the bad guys?
Yeah, 'cause they talk about the skull and crossbones on their hat.
Yeah, like this looks downright evil.
No, but Dorf and his girlfriend probably sit there and watch Star Wars and are actively cheering the.
I
the
have
Empire.
actually not gotten her. She has never seen Star Wars, and I haven't gotten her to sit down for one yet. So,
jeez,
not yet.
That was actually a Star Wars meme a while ago on some of the nerd pages I follow. It's the 2 stormtroopers saying like, "Hey, do you ever consider that maybe we're the bad guys?" Like, no, forget it. It's God, whatever, man. Let's get back to the Death Star. I mean, shit.
Well, I mean, here's the other thing. I got another. This is a brief tangent before we get back into it. The inaccuracy of the stormtrooper in their laser rifle fire, their blaster rifle fire, is that explained by being a conscript army? Conscript armies throughout the ages have performed significantly worse than volunteer armies, or even to volunteer regiments versus conscript regiments. Is it just that they're all conscripts at that point in the arc of Star Wars per se? That explains why they're so awful at their job, because they don't want to be there.
Yeah, they're bogged down by they need too many people to fill the spot, so you're just naturally going to have a less caliber
conquer
soldier.
and conscript.
Yeah.
Wait, is military service required in the Empire?
I thought, if I'm not the biggest Star Wars buff here, but isn't it after the clones essentially run out of clones, it becomes conscripts from throughout the Empire, usually recently captured civilizations?
No. Actually, in the new trilogy with the First Order, they are conscripts. They're actually all stolen. In the original trilogy, the Stormtroopers are a volunteer army, actually.
Yeah. How noble of the Empire.
Yeah, but I mean, is it a volunteer, or is it kind of like we just blew up your whole planet and this sucks now, so you want to come, you want a job?
Well, or is it one of those that's the only way to get employment outside of working in a shipyard or something like that?
I mean, this happens to Han Solo in the Solo movie.
Yeah,
he signs up for the Empire.
His choice is conscription. Well, that was a volunteer job, but it's that or like die working in a shipyard.
Right, and in that he signed up. Oh, I'm going to be a pilot, and then next thing you know, he's basically a stormtrooper. So they're kind of not really, but yeah, typically in the old Star Wars lore, they were they signed up. They signed up for the job. I guess back to the topic, the issue that to kind of go back to one of Adam's issues with government and corporations both doing this and then being so connected is that, they're constantly making it easier for each other. When the
Very
people,
good point here. I like where you're going.
yeah, when the corporations are constantly in the pockets of the people and actually have government funding in some ways, they actually are included in legislation that they're allowed to do these things, that bumps up their power to do this and their ability to do this. But at the same time, I think many acknowledge, I definitely think so, that private industry is far better at doing things than government. They get things done a lot better. So when the government sucks at something, which they do frequently, now they can go to a corporation and say, "Hey, give us this information on this guy. Give me this information."
Or even in law enforcement and espionage, even if we're, the citizenry or we as individuals here are okay with, Amazon, Facebook, Google keeping large treasure troves of data on us, we're not okay with that same data being collected and stored by our government. But at the same time, if Amazon, Facebook, and Google just did a simple ask with a fill out of a simple form, will turn over that data to the government, what good is that relationship with Facebook, Google, Amazon, etc.? If they're just going to turn it over, I mean, the only company that's really publicly fought back against that, believe it or not, is Apple.
I was just going to bring that up, Dorf, is the thing with Apple. And
they've refused to essentially decrypt phones for federal investigators. The specific case I can think of is the Tsarnaev brothers in the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah.
They refused to decrypt his phone.
I believe it happened too with the what was it, Dorf? Was it the San Bernardino?
It might have been.
Yes.
There was another case.
Definitely one in California.
What it was.
Something in California.
Yeah, I thought it was San Bernardino when the husband and wife went on that, shot up that, was it a Christmas party or something at that company.
Yeah.
The thing that really, to me, the most troubling thing about that, I was going to bring that up too, Dorf. I'm glad you went that route. Is, they're all over Apple. They're subpoenaing them. They're basically telling Apple, they're forcing them to decrypt these
these
files.
phones. And Apple, to their credit, has said no.
No, and I love it that Apple did this, but, and this kind of, I guess, goes to your point, Dorf, that I was going against earlier, is the people are against Apple on this. People are, the politicians are furious. They can't believe that Apple has the gall to not do what they are told to do. And people are like, oh my God, why wouldn't Apple do that? This is a terrible thing that they're... I'm not saying I don't want this guy's stuff. Of course, yeah, whatever. He's a murderer. But don't people realize the idea of opening up a can of worms? Don't people realize the idea of the slippery slope?
It's because you look and you see what mainstream corporate media is able to do with these situations and completely spin something. It's not just them. It's politicians as well that will sit here and try to, spread some type of faux patriotism that if you don't allow something like this to happen, then if you don't allow your country to investigate an act of terror against the United States, then you are somehow deemed... You're a
terrorist yourself.
You're a terrorist yourself.
You're just as bad as them.
Exactly, yeah. And that's what that is. And it comes from the mainstream corporate media. It comes from government officials too. If I can remember, Donald Trump was, calling on people to boycott Apple when those San Bernardino shootings happened and Apple refused to unlock the phones for the federal government.
Right. No, I mean, Donald Trump was a big supporter of that. In the same token, you had Barack Obama. His big thing was, if you see something, say something. In essence, trying to get you to spy on your neighbors. The idea that what your neighbor is doing next door is none of your business that's ludicrous to that. And the idea that the three of us don't agree on all that much that often, where we're all in unison here on this show. Anyone who's listened to past episodes of this know that to be true. The views
I mean, hell,
that
we've unpublished an episode because all we did was scream at each other.
Yeah, that was mostly you two, but I was trying to keep the peace. I guess I failed. The views that we just espoused, according to mainstream politicians and the mainstream media, is a fringe radical view that the three of us just agreed on. And we just backed it up with why it's constitutional, why it's moral, why it's right, and simply why it's just better. But we'd be called loons by, your average Republican or Democratic politician, and certainly by people on Fox News or CNN. That would be a crazy thing that we're asking of them. I want to actually go a little deeper with this, and I know people are going to say I turn everything into a conspiracy. But I believe this thing with Apple that they're trying to set a precedent here to force these corporations to do this, because quite frankly, I know a lot of people who are really good with computers. I suck with them. I don't know anything. But I know a lot of people. I vehemently and absolutely refuse to believe that the government doesn't have somebody who could break that code. I refuse. I don't believe it. I don't believe them. I think they're full of shit. I absolutely refuse, but that's not enough. They don't just want that information. They want the power to force people to give up the information they have. They want this precedent set so they can do this in the future. Because the idea that nobody in the government, nobody in the CIA, nobody in the FBI, some nerd in his parents' basement who's willing to do it for $5,000 can't break that damn code. I don't buy it. I don't believe it. It's nonsense. Somebody could do it. There are smart people all over the place. You're telling me that you couldn't put a word out to IT techs, to CIOs of companies, and say, "Hey, listen, we need someone to break this code. We need somebody to break it now. Show up. We're paying cash money."
Encryption isn't a matter of being able to be broken. It can all be broken. It's just the computing power and processing issue.
And again, I refuse to believe
even
they
the
don't
best
have it.
encryption in the world is just a supercomputer away from being broken. Especially as you get into quantum computing, all current encryption methods, once quantum computing becomes commercially available, are useless.
Mm-hmm.
Or absolutely, they won't do anything. It's just a math. Encryption is just a math problem to be solved. And as soon as you have the supercomputing power that can solve it super quick, encryption's done. It's over.
Right,
and that's an incredibly scary future too. That not only even it's not commercially viable and consumerly available at this point, but the idea that Joe Rich kid, 12-year-old, whose dad was bought him a quantum computer, could essentially own your ass with the information he's able to glean because he broke basic encryption, or even advanced encryption because he's bored. That's an incredibly scary future, too. It's something that needs to be considered before we just rush quantum technology to the consumer market.
Yeah.
God, I sound like such a Luddite, though. But at the same time, quantum computing is great. It's going to open up infinite frontiers when in the right hands. But at the same time, when Johnny Smiley Face over here, who's 12, who's my neighbor, gets bored and teaches himself how to break encryption with his quantum computer his daddy bought him because he thought it was cool, who didn't really understand the technology that's placed in the hands of a 12-year-old. I mean, look at how many times the federal government's secure systems have been hacked by minors.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
The amount of times that you've only heard about is a lot. Just imagine the ones you haven't heard about.
You know what, though? This is and I know Dorf is going to agree with this. This is where
Anonymous may become so important when it comes to,
I was just going to say, Adam, maybe we all just need to start using the dark web.
Maybe if it gets bad enough, maybe you'd have to look to a group like Anonymous to, end up taking or causing like some serious havoc amongst, Facebook or Twitter or something like that when it comes to something like this.
Yeah, sure. And I've got one more thing here. Let's kind of bring this topic home here, guys, and get this wrapped up here.
I got one more point. I'd
Okay,
like
go ahead,
to throw
Josh,
in,
and
too.
I'll wrap it up. Go
Okay,
ahead.
when discussing constitutional rights, I'm often, because I'm a nerd, I often get asked, what's your favorite amendment, or what do you think is the most important amendment? And I always say the Fourth, and people are often surprised by that. I support all the amendments. I'm going to use Second Amendment because that's the one that people talk about all the time.
Second ensures the rest.
Yeah, but the Second Amendment is a big deal. So let's say, okay, we have a right to privacy. We have the right to own things too. We have the right to have a quantum computer if they're out. We have the right to have have the internet and to have computers and to have fun with computers and do what we do with computers. But let's say that nobody on Earth disagrees with the Second Amendment at all, right? Second Amendment gives you the right to bear arms. Let's take the hardcore pro 2A stance here. We all have the right to bear arms. But we all have the right to these guns, to own guns. But what happens when you misuse one? What happens when you walk outside and shoot your neighbor in the face? Well, that's illegal, right? I mean, nobody denies that. Even the hardest 2A guy in the world. It doesn't mean you get to shoot people with guns. It means you get to own them. So the same goes with the privacy right. Just because you have a computer doesn't mean that it's not illegal to invade someone's privacy with it. Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean that you have the right to take away someone else's rights with your piece of property. It doesn't work that way. Just because you have a right to have something doesn't mean you have the right to misuse it, to use it for nefarious purpose. And that's in essence what's happening here is we don't have a government sticking up for our Fourth Amendment right and shutting down people who are going after it, whether it's themselves or their buddies in the corporate world. Like we said, 1984 versus Brave New World, it's both. It's both. We're in the middle of both right now. And nobody wants to admit it because smartphones are cool.
All right, so let's
Dorf, I have some quick political
ahead.
breaking news.
Uh-oh.
Andrew Yang is going to suspend his campaign.
Okay.
Yeah. No, thanks. Thanks.
No, that's good. Not surprised. I mean, we've done a show here, Josh and I. It was just Josh and I, actually. We did UBI.
Yeah.
I think Andrew Yang, R.I.P. Yang Gang. He at least, I honestly think I'll give you $1,000, bro, has at least provided a valuable discussion into thinking more further out than just the next election, and that UBI may become a essential economic reality that can exist within the current capitalist system.
Elon Musk is all for it, by the way. Do you guys know? Elon Musk is on board.
And quite frankly, I'm cool with it, just not yet. I don't think we're at the point we need it yet, but at the same time, that doesn't mean you don't need to prep it and have it ready for when the time does come. All right. Anyway, back at it. So some practical tips to people if this bothers you, how consumers or companies treat citizens, invasion of their privacy rights. How do you protect yourself? Number one, online. Use a VPN. Yes, it's just essentially you bounce your web traffic through a third-party server, and yes, that's also a private company. Those that find a good one that opens itself up, you're going to have to pay for it. Free ones aren't good ones. Pay for it. Ones that routinely do security and integrity audits and let other people look at them to make sure they truly are not storing your data. That will at least protect you from snooping corporations.
For now.
Number two, pay cash for everything. Don't get Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express involved in your transaction, because guess what? Both sides of that, it's essentially a three-way transaction. Then two of those three ways keep records, and that's assuming you don't keep records. They'll know who you are. They'll track your spending habits and advertising to you accordingly. Guess what they can't do if you pay cash? Number 3, those consumer rewards cards like your Kroger Plus card, your Dick's Sporting Goods sports,
Fuck the
sports
Kroger
card.
one too. I get like a bunch of discounted gas.
Yeah, yeah. Stop using it. All it is a data mining tool. If you don't want that Kroger to essentially try to manipulate and influence your purchasing behavior, pay cash there, and don't use their Kroger Plus card. Yes, it's gonna cost you more money, but if you value your privacy and you don't want Kroger, or if you're okay with Kroger advertising you free groceries so you get cheaper gas, I mean, so be it. I mean, if that's your decision, that's fine. Just guess what? You don't get to control what Kroger does with that information besides advertise to you, which they're very likely to sell it. Stop using rewards cards. Don't give your information out online. Oh, it's such a boomerific behavior of give us your information and we'll give you a free prize. Bullshit.
God,
It's
Dorf's
too good
such
to
a
be
downer with all of this.
He is.
Like-
He's right, though. He's
It's like
right.
getting rid of all of our fun, free groceries.
Yeah.
And
Number 5, and the last one I can think of, unless of course you guys can think of one off the top of your head. Ad blockers are your friends. Use them.
You know what, Dorf? I agree with
Delete.
everything you-
Regularly set up a process that every time you close your browsing window, your browser automatically deletes your tracking cookies that it may have downloaded for you. Delete them. Do not save your passwords on your browser. Also, engage in alternative browsers. One that I really like, it's called Brave. It literally has a VPN built into it. It's not free, though. Use it. Look at it. It's pretty darn good. It's come a long way. It's not as perfect and ubiquitous as a Google Chrome, a Safari, or Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, but it's getting pretty close. Oh, and the other thing, stop using Google as your search engine. DuckDuckGo, and you'll realize just how much shit's manipulated.
No,
And you'll
great
open your-
points. Great points,
Go ahead.
Dorf. The only thing I'll say is, for every single one of those things you just said, there is a team of nerds working around the clock to get around
Try and
them
beat
right
it.
now. Right now. And the thing that I'm scared of, listen, I'm that guy that uses cash. I use cash for everything, man. Everything. But I then wonder, then I get scared and think, oh, they know that Josh has a life. They know that. I feel like it makes you a target. It could potentially put a target.
It
on your
definitely
back.
does for banking law.
Because-
That's the even crazier part for banking law. This is another invasion. I would argue invasion of your privacy. Any bank that you deposit more than $10,000 at once is required to write I forget which federal agency gets the report, but you get a suspicious activity report written on you.
Right.
Because why are you carrying $10,000?
No, I mean,
And none of your business isn't an acceptable answer.
Yeah, why-
you get
why-
the feds called on you for that?
yeah, why you carrying $10,000? And did we get a cut of it?
no, and that's what they start asking is, oh wow, this guy never uses credit cards. That means, but he's living, he has kids, he has a car, he has electricity. Like, what's this guy doing? But what's he up to? What's he really buying with all that money? How much money does he really have? It's in there. I mean, this. Do you know what's weird? I know we're trying to wrap up here, but the number one reason, I'm a big taxation stuff guy. I'm a big anti-tax guy, as you know. But the biggest reason I oppose the income tax isn't on tax basis. It's for privacy purposes. How you made your money and what you did with it is none of your business. If they got to tax us, fine, tax us. But the idea that they take it from you and they know exactly what you made, the government could make their money taxing you other ways. They don't want income tax because...
Use taxes, just switch it all over into an entirely use tax base.
Exactly. It would work just as well. And I've said 1,000,000 times, if the Republicans and the Democrats really meant what they said, then they would both be for a flat tax. A flat sales tax. Why? Because now the Republicans should be happy, right? Everybody's paying taxes now. Everybody's paying taxes. Everybody's got to buy something. Everybody's paying taxes. And the Democrats should love it because now the rich people are paying a hell of a lot more taxes than the poor people. Because you buy one yacht, you buy one Ferrari, you pay more taxes right there than I will in 15 years. Boom. I mean, but that's not why the government wants income tax. It's not for tax dollars. It's not because of an inability to tax more. It's to invade your privacy. And I mean, you can, Photoshop tinfoil hats on me all you want, but that is why. It's so they can be in your business.
Taxation and tax rebate schemes are essentially the biggest lever of power the government can yield to influence the behavior of the citizenry outside of military force.
No, I mean, and truth be told, the government is more than willing, our benevolent, wonderful government is more than willing to let people in this country not pay taxes. Whether it's people that don't make enough money,
Mitt
or
Romney wasn't wrong when he said 47% of people effectively don't pay federal tax.
right.
He's right.
I mean,
don't.
and whether it's big time corporations like Amazon, the one everyone loves to complain about, whether it's them getting out of taxes,
But still
or-
buy tons of shit from.
yeah, or exactly, or whether it's poor people, they say, "Oh yeah, you're right. You didn't pay enough. We're going to give you back everything you made," because they don't. It's not the money they want. It's your information they want.
Oh, they still want your money too, but
No, well, they don't from the person who they give all the money back to.
that's true. Well,
I mean,
they just
really,
got an interest-free
there's-
loan for the entire year, or a negative interest rate loan.
Sure. I mean, but really, like you said, Dorf, a lot of people don't pay taxes. That costs the government money to, in essence, monitor somebody's income, so then they can pay somebody to look over it, blah blah blah, look through it, and then give you all that money back. That's a great money making scheme. No, they're not doing it to make money. They're doing it to invade your privacy. This has been in existence for a long time, and it's an issue, and people don't want to seem to take issue with it.
All right.
Dorf,
anything,
were you
anything
gonna?
else,
You
guys?
weren't gonna. I realize we probably don't have time for this now, but I thought you were gonna bring up the China thing. I guess I could be a whole
I
other
was
show.
specifically focused on the U.S., but the social credit system is scary as fuck. Let's just leave it at that. We could do a whole show on that.
I mean, I'm not saying the next show necessarily, but let's do a show on that again and focus on worldwide things, because what's happening in China with the social credit score or social score is scary as hell, and quite frankly, similar things are happening right here in the U.S.
Oh yeah, I mean, one specific corporate example. Mm-hmm. The YouTube, which is arguably of more political influence to millennials and younger than Google or Facebook, has what's known as a P score for every publisher and every video is assigned a P score. That's a subjective evaluation by YouTube about how good the quality this is, and it has subjective components, and then it just has pure objective performance based. How well your videos perform on average, is also an influence to that, and that's just pure data. But somebody can go in there and twist the lever and essentially shut off somebody who has an outside of fringe view, who's critical of Google or YouTube, because it threatens Google or YouTube status quo.
I'll give a real quick example of that, Dorf.
Yep.
As I stated, the next show on at 9 p.m. here on EmpireMedia.com is on the Council on Foreign Relations. I was trying to do some last-minute research. I did most of it, last week, but I was trying to do some last-minute research before. And I'm just noticing as I Google this, you're Googling Council on Foreign Relations. So Council on Foreign Relations is an entity and a group that many people on this planet hate. They hate it. There's been conspiracies surrounding the Council on Foreign Relations for decades. There has been terrible quotes from the Council on Foreign Relations. This is an organization that people fear on planet Earth. But try Googling them.
There
You
ain't
don't
much
find
on
that.
them
You don't
on
find
purpose.
that. And the first 20 things you're going to find are their pages.
And
Their
propaganda.
pages talking about how wonderful they are. Talking about the new things. Yeah, the Council on Foreign Relations, we're meeting here. I can't wait. You try to go to YouTube, watch a YouTube video on it. It's literally the only one you can find unless you dig really deep are the president from the Council on Foreign Relations and a bunch of celebrities talking about how wonderful it is. The dude from the White Castle movies, Kumar, the White Castle movie. He's on there, and some other some pretty faces, actresses and singers talking about how wonderful, like they know shit about the Council on Foreign Relations, like they weren't paid a quick sum of money to have a pretty face on there talking about this. But it's crazy stuff, man. It's crazy stuff. That's hidden. That's done on purpose. You know.
All right, let's wrap it up there. Anything else, guys?
I don't think so, man.
All right, I just want to thank you both for another great episode here. Thanks for your diligent preparation here with everything, and I think it's made for a good broadcast here tonight. So that's going to do it here for the latest episode of Politics of the Empire, presented by theempiremedia.com. I've been your host, Dorf, joined each and every episode by Empire Media founder Adam Hernandez and contributor Josh Houselander. Our next show, I believe, is actually going to be the 25th. Our next show is the 25th. Actually, no, it's not. I lied. The 18th. We will actually have another one next week. So next week, topics still to be determined. We're actually going to decide that right here after we go off air. And so for Adam and Josh, I'm Dorf. We'll see y'all next time.
Thanks.
See you.